And thanks, Thomas, for the introduction. It's been a while since we've been featured on the NinjaTrader ecosystem, so this is quite an exciting time. We've been around for quite a few years now, coming in 13 or 14 years. I still remember kind of the early days when it all first started. So yeah, it's great to be back. My name is Jeremy Tang, as Thomas mentioned, and my cohort here is Zach White. How are you doing, Zach?
And this is Zach. Hello, everybody. Hey. Well, this is actually a great day where we can finally show the optimizer ability that so many traders have been looking forward to. So
Yeah,
there's a lot going on today in this webinar.
exciting day today for us. Okay, so the topic is going to be, and we're going to present this kind of with the backdrop of the current market. Very interesting things are happening today in the market. That's probably understating it a bit. And of course, there's probably the questions of like, how do you trade this kind of market? And that's totally legitimate. Things have changed, and so most likely trade systems that you've had before no longer or work differently. They have different performance characteristics, and so maybe be a time to change it up. So uh, some of you guys might be starting from square one again in terms of like you got to find a trade system that works in this market going forward. And that is literally the topic for today. And that's the challenge that I think a lot of traders face, right? Is finding the right trade system for today's market, right? Because again, what maybe worked yesterday doesn't may not work so well going forward. And how are we going to do that? Well, let's get some context. Okay, so unless you've been living under a rock, there's obviously some changes in the broader market right now, and we're going to focus, guys, on sort of the stock market. Obviously, if you trade futures, you may be focused on a certain commodity, but you can sort of extrapolate what we're saying and apply it to the to your particular instrument that you like to trade. But by and large, everybody kind of understands the stock market, I think here, and so we're going to keep it simple. And so we're also going to keep it simple by sticking to daily charts. But of course, everything that we say translates perfectly fine intraday as well. All right, so there's that. So again, what do we have here? Okay, so we've got some market turmoil, some volatility happening, and really what we're going to try to do here is try to find, and this is nothing new, right? We know that the S&P, for example, tends to go up about 70% of the time. It's just marching steadily upwards, but that 30% of the time you get these volatile periods, right? And they can manifest themselves in different forms. And if we think about recently, we had two such pretty, arguably three, in fact, incidences where, we've seen this kind of choppy or some sort of uncertainty. One was obviously the COVID pandemic. No one can forget that, of course. And then we had this huge spike down and then it marched up. Largely probably because there's a lot of printing of money, a lot of government stimulus, right? But what happened after that? We got to some unexpected territory, right? And generally speaking, kind of the market going up in this upward direction. There's going to be some kind of correction or some kind of like consolidation or something. And this is a pretty good example because, right, and again, I'm not an economist, but this particular period here, some interesting stuff happened, right? We had countries that were opening up at different times, uh, and we had rampant inflation. So you had kind of two large factors affecting the overall market. And when you gum up the supply chain, right, because of the pandemic, aftershocks of the pandemic, you put companies in a bit of an upheaval, right? They have to reorganize things and they're scrambling to produce and to deliver product. You had inflation, of course, which was the other side of things that was putting a damper on spending and all sorts of other issues. And that resulted in this kind of consolidation, this volatile up and down, right? Which is very different from this, which is what we've been seeing in the last, 2 years. And so I'm going to put forward a hypothesis, right? Are we going to look like this going forward? are we going to look like this? Okay, so we have to make a decision here, and this is of course something that you got to decide for yourself whether or not, this is what you think is going to happen, right? But basically, we're going to hypothesize going forward that it's going to look more like this. Okay, and we've got some reasons. Like obviously today the market's been pretty steady sideways. But some headwinds are there. And of course, the Fed 2 weeks ago just said they're not going to play with the interest rates because they see potential inflation being another issue brought on by possibly the tariffs. Of course, tariffs also tend to cause supply chain reconstruction and reconfiguration. Those are very similar problems that we saw in 2023. So we're going to go forward, and what we're going to do is we're going to take a system that's suitable for this market, and we're going to back test it in this market and as a hypothesis, thinking that's going to apply going forward, with the hope that if it does look like that going forward, you're going to have a nice tradable system that will work in the months to come, perhaps years, right? So this stuff takes time to play out. It's not going to be overnight. This was a 2 year period, right? So you got plenty of time, but of course you want to make use of that time. And traders don't don't worry so much about it going up, right? You guys make money when it goes down. Volatility is your friend, definitely, right? You can make money going in either direction. And so what better time to switch it up and make money while everyone else is probably screaming for the exit, right? Okay, so let's talk about backtesting because this is kind of the crux of it all, right? So backtesting, uh, right? So you got the system, and we want to test it against that time period. What do you got to do? Well, the old-fashioned way, right? You would take your system, the rules, and you'd mark up your chart, and then you figure out when you went in, when you got out, and then you got to tabulate all that stuff in a spreadsheet, which of course, as you can guess, is pretty time consuming. Now, most likely you won't get it the first try, so you're going to be iterating over and over again, and that means you're going to have to go through that whole exercise again. Okay, so obviously we have computers. We got
That
Ninja.
sounds very time consuming, Jeremy.
It is.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember those days.
yeah,
It was time consuming.
that's the way you have to do it. And even today, unless you considered perhaps an alternative that we're going to present here, uh, how do you get the computer to backtest? Well, let's think about it, right? What do you need? You need to tell the computer when you're going in, when you're going out, how that trade is going to be managed, like stop losses, where they're going to be placed, that sort of thing. Really, what you need is a full-blown auto trader, right? Those are all the pieces needed for a full-blown auto trader, which of course generally means Ninja scripting. And like I got some generic code up there. I know that's not Ninja script, but you get the idea, right? You got to code it up, which is outside the realm of a lot of people in terms of what they're willing to do, learning a computer language at the same time as learning trade or trading, right? And of course that's where you want to focus is trading, not necessarily coding. Yeah, like where you put your time. So this is kind of where we come in, right? And you think about it, there's really two steps to this. You're creating a trade system and then actually executing the trades, which in this case would be like to backtest and optimize it. And we actually have two products that can do that. We've been selling these products for many years now. They're quite mature in terms of where they're at, in terms of creating the trade system. And you're going to see this in a minute. You can create trade system using a software that we offer called Bloodhound. It allows you to describe signals, and you can see really how quickly we can put together signals to trade, right? And then you take those signals, and then you got to put down the trades in terms of where the profit targets are going to be, where the stop losses are going to be, et cetera, et cetera. That's called the trade manager, and that's Blackbird. And so in the Ninja Trader parlance, you got Bloodhound, which is an indicator, but it's really like a logic engine. And you got Blackbird, which is the actual trade or the strategy, which is all when you put these two together and you throw optimization into the mix, you can find trade systems very quickly. Okay, so let's talk about this. Remember, I was saying, typically you would create a trade system, or you'd vet one out, and by back testing it, most likely you'd tweak it, right? And then you got to compare the results, and you basically got to go through this iterative cycle. And you go through this cycle enough times, dozens, perhaps hundreds of times, you might arrive at a system that you're actually pretty comfortable trading. right? But what if this process itself could be automated? What if we could actually do that? What if we could, um, you know, take that cycle and do it perhaps not just 10, 20 times, but hundreds or thousands of times with different parameters and trying different things and comparing hundreds of thousands, perhaps even results against each other to see to find what we call an optimized trade system. And this is really kind of where we can open up a whole new world of possibilities. Optimization is incredibly powerful. The ability to create and fine tune your trade systems and really hone in on settings with your trade system that really work. And so that's what we're going to demo today. So I'm going to pass the buck off to Zach. He's going to pull up the software and we're going to build some trade systems and then test them out.
All right. So Jeremy, it looks like you had to let go of the sharing. I can't take it from
Yeah,
you.
I just did. Give
All
you
right.
yeah.
There we go. Okay. So should see my screen here in a moment. Yep, there we go. All right. So I get the pleasure of demonstrating Bloodhound and Blackbird to show you, literally show you what those two products are for and how to use them. So again, just to reiterate, right, I'm going to focus on this consolidation, right, this choppy market period, and thinking, that's probably what we're looking at going forward, right, until the companies can, clean up their supply chain and get back to normal business, right? So for this period, what typically works best, I think most traders know that a mean reversion system, right, or a counter trend system usually works best in a choppy market. So that's what I'm going to build there, right? When the market's trending, that's the easy money right there, right? This is the more difficult challenge there. So my next chart is only going to be, these 2 years here. So we're going to focus in on that. So, all right, so here's my chart. And this mean reversion system I'm going to build, I kind of got the idea from this really old system, that I learned back in the classroom days, right? This is going way back, and it was just called like the classic stock system, right? It used a moving average, a 30-period moving average, the classic stochastics, and a MACD, right? And you were looking for an alignment of, crossings, the price crossing the SMA, stochastics crossing, out of oversold, and MACD crossing stuff. So I'm going to take these and we're going to adjust the rules here to make it a counter trend or mean reversion system here. So so reversing everything, right? So in order to go long, price needs to be below the moving average now. The stochastics needs to be oversold, and we're gonna wait for the stochastics to cross out of the oversold. All right, so to start with, I'm going to use 20 and 80 here, right, as my crossover levels there. And then instead of the MACD, I'm actually using the PPO. So if you don't know, when you're building systems and testing systems, the PPO can be really handy because it is a normalized MACD. So we can see that the values here, range anywhere from 2 to 1 or 2 to -2, right? So it kind of stays within that range no matter what instrument you have. If you're familiar with the MACD values change dramatically depending on the instrument and the price. So this PPO helps, it is a normalized MACD there. So we just want to make sure that the PPO, is below the zero line to go long. And again, we want our stochastics to be oversold. and we want price to be below the MACD, right? So that's the system, and I'm going to build it right in front of you using Bloodhound, right? So this is our first product, and so this is kind of like most people think of this as your entry and your exit signal developer there. So while I'm building, Jeremy's going to narrate here and give you an overview and an explanation, more detail here.
All right. So again, like Zach said, this is the Bloodhound interface. As you can see, it's basically a logic board. And this is really how we simplify this is a no-code solution in terms of being able to build trade systems and build entry signals, right? So that you can do whatever, basically whatever you can do in the code, you can implement here in some fashion. And as you can see, he's analyzing now the price against the SMA. It's going to be the SMA 75. So we're doing a price comparison. And so as you can see, immediately, as soon as you pop that on the chart, we've got these areas marked out where it's red, where it's below the SMA, and green when it's above. But we want to reverse that actually, right? Because again, this is a mean reversion system. And so we actually want to be looking to go long when we're below that mean and looking to go short when we're above that mean. So there you have it. He's just reversed those signals, but you can see instantly how the chart reacts to logic that you're plugging in there. So what's really cool about that is you can take ideas that you've got in your head and then almost instantly like just translate them right onto the chart. And that tight loop really allows you to remain creative and keep thinking about the trading system rather than letting the code get in the way, letting the, what I mean, like letting the compile step or whatever if you're a programmer, right? And you're trying to do this in code. Um, right. So the other second thing he said was he was gonna talk about or compare against was the PPO. And what's really cool about our system is you can actually use any kind of indicator, an NinjaTrader indicator that's been installed on your system, and you can also use indicators that maybe you've downloaded off Nexus 5 or what have you. Those will also show up in that list, and then you can actually analyze those indicators, not just the ones that are installed in NinjaTrader. Okay, so yeah, now he's got the two pieces of criteria that he talked about earlier, the PPO and the stochastic. And you slam them together and you get these zones, right? This is a great filter, kind of a filter in terms of, when to go when you're in this overbought and oversold territory, right? And it's really what we're doing here is marking those situations up, or at least for the PPO. We're going to take it one step further though, and now we're going to check it against the stochastics now, right? And this is actually this is properly where we're looking for those oversold and overbought situations, right? So if you recall, right, that the stochastics in the background, we want to compare the stochastic against the 20 threshold and the 80 threshold. And so that's what he's building right there. So you can and that's going to be important in a bit. We're gonna explain why, but those are all the indicators again you see on the screen, right? And we're going to find that stochastics and plug that puppy right in, and we're going to mark up discrete signals where it crosses above or below those thresholds. So on the long side, we're interested when when it goes down into that oversold territory, right? And we want to wait to the moment where we're kind of getting springing back to the mean, and that's where the stochastics really comes in there. Okay, so that's again Bloodhound showing us or Zach showing us how easy it is to build these signals, right? And you do this piece by piece. And what's really cool again is you can sort of just let your imagination go to town. You can try all sorts of things and very quickly see the feedback on the chart. And this really makes system building not only easy, but quite fun. Um, yeah, so let's put those all together and see what we get. And we can do this eyeball test. We can take a look at the yeah, there we go. Okay, so those are the signals. Well, they're unfiltered at the moment, but now just as simple as that, we can plug them into the filter, and boom, we have the system built. And this is kind of the baseline where we're going to start off with.
Yeah, so there's our initial system with all the indicators and components set up. So let me close out Bloodhound, and now let's get Blackbird fired up here. And I will walk you through what Blackbird is and kind of show you some of its capabilities, right? So we have these entry signals now. I'm going to remove those off the chart temporarily here. And so here's Blackbird and the interface, right? So you have a chart trader here, if you want to do some discretionary trading. We also have a dynamic planner, which gives you far more advanced capabilities there for discretionary trading. But for now, we're going to open up the order settings window here. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load in my entry signals. So you can use Bloodhound, of course, or if you have a third-party indicator, you can also take signals from a third-party indicator as well and use Blackbird to manage your trade from those third-party signals. So select Bloodhound. We're going to open this up. And the first thing is I'm going to load in that Bloodhound file there. So let's open that up and there, load that in. And the next step, let's select the entry signals here, right? And also, if you have a system that also includes exit signal criteria, you can build exit signals as well and use that within here. So, all right, so there's our entry signals for this mean reversion system here. Next step is to set up your orders. So we'll just go in with the market entry, and then let's set up some, initial exit orders here. So, being a daily chart here, I'm kind of guessing, let's start off with like a 3 ATR on the profit target, and I'll do an ATR for the stop loss as well. That way our exit orders are auto adjusting using the ATR, for the volatility in the market there. So our stop loss, let's open this up and we'll adjust our stop loss to 3 ATRs as well. All right. So there's really all that we need for that system. Right? You need your trade signals, and you need an entry order and some exit orders, and you're ready to go. So before I backtest though, let me just quickly point out that Blackbird does have a lot more capabilities that unfortunately we don't have the time to show you, but I'm just going to quickly mention we do have money management capabilities, such as automatically turning off Blackbird for the day once your max profit has been reached, right? Or even a max loss, right? To turn the system off for the day and stop trading there, and of course it has all the other money management metrics as well, and a scheduler. So if you are a day trader, an intraday day trader, right, you can load in a custom schedule there. I think most people are just going to use RTH, and that way Blackbird only trades during these hours here. If you're an oil trader, you may not want to trade during the weekly inventory report, so you can turn off trading in the morning there for oil traders, right? And of course it has exiting your position at the end of the day, or at the end of the time period as well, right? So anyways, I'm going to turn that off because we're on a daily chart here. And yeah, let's go and save this here. There, we'll go and save that. Click OK. And so now we can actually run some backtests here. So to do that, I need to reload the chart and get our strategy to run the backtest. So this will take just a second here. So there, so we can see Blackbird added our Bloodhound signals to the chart there. And let's pull this stuff down. There's our indicators. And we can see the backtest results on the chart here. Right, so there we go. So I do have the trade, what the order markers, and trade lines there on there. So let's pull up our strategy performance, right? And again, this is just our starting baseline here. Let's see what we have. And you know what? Not too bad there. At least it made some money. But let's look at the analysis and look at that equity curve there. So, look at that. So it kind of made some money and then it lost some money, made some money, right? So kind of up and down, up and down. So what can we do to improve this, right? So because, when you first come up with an idea, we just took a guess at what the SMA should be. We kind of took a guess at where the stochastics should be. Should it be 2080 or should it be 1090? Right? We don't really know. And also, what about the PPO as well? Should we just use the zero line, or maybe we should require the PPO to be down at like -1 before going long, right? Or up at +1 before going short, right? So there's a lot of values here, numbers, that we can, that might need some adjustment, right? We just don't know. And right, that's that iteration backtest cycle that Jeremy talked about that used to be really manual and tedious, but now we can throw these numbers into the optimizer there and backtest them. So with that, Jeremy's going to take over here and kind of take you a tour through the optimizer.
All right. Hopefully you can see my screen now. And I'm not sure, Zach, if
Let's
you
see.
might.
Yep, I need to release
Yeah.
this here.
Yeah. All right.
All
Can
right,
you
there
see
you
my
go.
screen okay? Yeah.
Yep, we got your screen.
All right. Yeah. So there's actually a secret way to do this that's a little quicker. What you saw was kind of the interactive way to do it. NinjaTrader, though, has this thing called the Strategy Analyzer. It's a really cool tool, probably not as well known. But if you click that, you get one of these screens. And it looks like kind of a spreadsheet. I've kind of got some, past results when I was toying around with it. But let me show you kind of how the workflow would go now that we're introducing this new feature of ours. So I'm going to take that original file that Zach just completed. And now we have this ability to play around with some of the options, play around with some of those options that we were talking about earlier. So what were they? Well, we wanted to look at things like that SMA. All right. So I'm gonna bring up the SMA, right? And this is basically everything that was set inside of that particular Bloodhound template. And I could select something like the SMA period here. I do have some extra stuff in there from a past project, but let's take a look at things like the stochastics. Remember, we were talking about that stochastics threshold. And as you can see, all these little nodes are here as well. And I can take a particular node like this, and I can look at the threshold value. Okay, so I can actually pop that down there. All right, and I could do the same thing with the other threshold with the cross down. And just remember that chart that we were just examining earlier, right? It was the that stochastic in those two lines, right? So this is the cross up, which is originally the 20. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the long threshold. Okay. So visualize in your head again that threshold line on the stochastics, right? And we could put all sorts of things in there that we want to play around with. So Zach did mention, we want to muck around with the PPO, the threshold there as well on the long side and the short side. I can just go ahead and select those. I'm just listing a bunch of like parameters I want to play around with, right? So this is the long PPO threshold, okay? And again, just visualize that PPO. This is the short side. I'm sorry, guys. That's the short PPO threshold, okay? And something that, you know, I think is not as emphasized as it should be. But something like, when people talk about building systems, they tend to talk a lot about the entry signals, perhaps even the exit signals, but there's not enough, I think, emphasis on things like where do I put my profit target? Or where do I put my stop loss, right? We just kind of arbitrarily said, let's say 3 ATR. But why not, let's throw those in there too. And let's find suitable values for these ATRs. Okay. So I think that is very crucial part of the system. Obviously, that will greatly affect the performance of how your system performs, is how far you're putting your stop losses and your profit targets. So let's put those down here as well as values that we want to play around with. So I'm going to hit OK. And then one other thing we can do here, right? We can open up that Blackbird file. We can tweak it as well. I'm going to go ahead and do that, actually, to be honest. I'm going to open up the Bloodhound file that we're working with, and we kind of have like some extra stuff here from a past project. So I'm just going to go ahead and edit this, delete a few things from here. These are kind of other experimentations that aren't really relevant to the presentation right now. So I'm just going to get kind of clean up this gunk a little bit. But you can sort of imagine you're taking some time here, right? And you're just kind of like you can actually spend this time enhancing your system. Just say maybe you've gone ahead and you did a back test run and you want to add another node. You can go ahead and do that. All right, so I've got my bear system here. I've been editing my Bloodhound file. I'm gonna go ahead and save that guy and save it. Put it over here. All right, so let's go back to back testing. That's what we're worried about here. And this loop can be really tight, guys. So I can do all my work on this screen, right? I can go ahead, I can punch my values in that I originally put that I originally sort of handpicked, right? I can try things like, okay, let's see what happens if we do a profit target ATR at 4, a stop loss ATR at 5. Let's keep that SMA period the same. Let's keep the PPO thresholds where they were. And let's make sure we got everything else in line here. We got daily data. Yes, we got the right time frame. Let's go ahead and hit run, and it's going to spool up some data first. And usually it takes about 10 seconds or so for it to fire off. And oh, let's just see again. I think I didn't get any signals in this on this particular run, and it might just be because I did not have the the indicator selected properly. But basically, this would be the I'm sorry, the entry signals selected properly. But basically, this is the tight loop that we run here in terms of you can do your settings, play around with it, hit run, and most importantly, now we can do the optimizations as well. Now, these do tend to take a while, right? So imagine now, instead of just playing around with a single value for each one of these, we're going to try a range of values instead, right? So we could try a range. We're going to try this cross up here, this threshold from, maybe we'll try a number from 5 to maybe 50 or something like that. I could plug all these numbers in, and do keep in mind when you do sort of the experimentation, what could happen is you can exponentially increase the number of uh, trials,
Iterations.
iterations, yeah, to
Yeah.
and quickly can grow to hundreds of thousands. And so, fortunately, like, and those can sometimes take a couple hours to chew through that sort of data, right? And so, what I'm going to do, in fact, is pass the buck back to Zach. Now that you've sort of seen kind of like how the workflow would go, we have run some optimizations already. So we can actually like see the results of those on Zach's screen, in fact. So let's pass it
All
back.
right. I got the screen again.
Okay.
So yeah, clearly, it should be understandable that when you run optimizations, it takes a very long time. So, we don't, nobody has the time, during a quick sales webinar to do that here. So I already have some optimization already done that were, done yesterday there. So let's kind of look through this, because I'm sure somebody out there who is already familiar with optimizing and backtesting, the dirty little word with optimizing is curve fitting, right? So we want to make sure that we don't over curve fit, right? So when you optimize, it's what you want to really glean out of it is not just the maximum profit you can pull out from optimizing, but rather look at the average settings here. Look at where the optimizer is leaning towards when it's, when it's discovering, what values, make the most money there, right? So again, let's take a look at the stochastic two numbers here, right? The 20 and 80. Well, when I ran this optimization, there is a consistent theme here. So it's saying instead of 20, it prefers 5, right? So this optimization told us that, okay, if you're going to go long, remember, this is a consolidating market, right? A choppy market. So if you want to go long, we need to make sure that stochastics is extremely oversold down at 5. That works a little better, right? So if we go back to this, right, our stochastics cross up instead of 20, optimizer told us we should be using a much lower number, right? And the same with going short. It likes 55, right? So instead of going short at 80, it's saying, all right, we should be able to go short a little easier, a little quicker. Don't wait for that stochastics to get so extreme, right? So it likes 55 there. And the next one is the profit target there. And all of these, it says, you know what, just go for a scalp. Yeah. So instead of going for, a long swing trade, one ATR seems to be our better option there.
Yeah,
Next one.
I was just gonna
Yeah.
interject and say, like, I think in general you kind of have like two basic type of systems, right? You got the trend following ones, which you tend to want to get like those big runs, and you'll probably have kind of a
Right.
win ratio that's a little lower, right? But of course, we're not in that kind of market. So we're kind of more of
Yep.
a mean reversion market, or like sort of a up and down choppy market, which mean reversion systems tend to risk a little bit more, but win a little bit more often.
Yep. Right. So again, the point of this is make sure you're not over optimizing and look at the bigger picture of what all these results are telling you about your system. So we can continue to go through, each number there, but it's kind of the same here, except there's one exception here, the SMA. So when I look at that value, all these results are all over the board. So I have 175, 50, 100, 75, 75, 25, 25, 120, right? The SMA value is all over the board. So what that tells me initially is probably the SMA doesn't make any difference. If we look at the chart here, apparently it says, no matter how fast or how slow your SMA is, the market, when you want to get into a trade, the market is going to be on the other side of that SMA no matter what, right? So maybe, yeah, so adding in this SMA requirement appears to be totally unnecessary. So we could even remove it from the system and then test again, and see, right? No need to have unnecessary requirements, in your trading system there.
Yeah, I would say like in general, right? That's what the power of this optimizing allows you to do, is really glean the characteristics of your system, if anything else, right? So even if you're a little hesitant with the curve fitting, right? Because in this case, it's sort of cherry picked a couple trades in terms of like how we optimize it against the profit factor, right? So obviously we pick the systems that are the combinations that had basically all winning trades. May or may not be ideal for how you want to do it, but you can optimize on other things. But most importantly, you get a real understanding of how your system behaves, especially in the market that you're intending to do. But since we're running kind of really short on time, of course, our software, we barely had time to scratch the surface of it. It's really, there's a lot to it. These are a lot of some of the resources we do offer, and both available from customers and non-customers when you jump on our ecosystem.
The optimizer is a new feature for BlackBird. So if you already own Blackbird and you have access to the latest updates, you have access to the optimizer already. And so, yeah, the optimizer is included free with Blackbird. You just need to be up on updates. So the vast majority of our customers own both Bloodhound and Blackbird because they're sort of the full equation entry and trade management. And so if you're one of those people, but your updates are expired, what you're looking
All
at
right.
is $295 in order to get the updates. So if you visit our website, if you're on here on the homepage, go learn more about the Blackbird optimizer right there. And you can say, hey, I already own Blackbird. So you can click there. And if you're good, you can just download the installer and start playing. If you're expired, click here, and that'll let you get the updates for both tools. It's only $295, which is actually a nice surprise. I've noticed talking to people lately, a lot of them were expecting us to charge a ton more for this, so it's really nice to be able to surprise with that. And then if you have no clue when your updates is expired or if you're expired or whatever, you can reach out to us. We can look up your account details and all that. So, all right, Jeremy and
Hi
Zach, are you able to
guys.
make it in?
Yep,
Yeah,
we're
we're all
here.
here. Yes. Yeah. If we can get some other questions, I'm going to try to queue up a strategy analyzer again.
So,
Yeah.
Keith, did you answer this first question about the Blackbird lifetime?
No, but if you have
Yeah.
Blackbird Lifetime already, then you've got access to it, right?
Correct. Yep. So all you gotta do is just go to the website's download page from support. Yep, go to the download, and there you go. You can get the latest and greatest version every time we release an update.
Let's see. So Jorge was asking about this would be a good question for you, I think. Actually, either of you. Tick replay, calculated tick by tick. There is some nuance there with backtesting. What should we know?
Yeah, I mean, our products do support tick replay. I will say that is a lesser tested aspect of our software and strategy analyzer in the optimizer in particular. I would definitely say, you'd be looking at very long calculation times. So as long as you're cool with that, yeah, you can absolutely do that. Some suggestions in terms of uh, performing tick replay in the analysis mode would be, when you're filling out those parameters. And actually, Zach, do you mind sharing your screen for a bit while I'm just kind of working on something else here?
Sure.
In terms of there's a setting in there called the increment, right? I didn't have time to really kind of go too much into detail. Um, yeah, so why don't you kind of go over like that increment setting, if you will, in the optimizer settings there. Yeah.
There we go. Okay. So, yeah, let me pull up a new strategy analyzer there and give it a moment. There we go. All right. Let's see here. We had, I think I can do a 2-for-1 question here. So, where is it? Time frame, daily. Let's see. Oh, I might actually have. Sorry. Yeah, in my machine, I have the tick replay disabled. Unfortunately, so I'd have to restart NinjaTrader. But yeah, you would see the tick replay inside the data series section here. Yeah. So with all the testing, that we've done, we haven't seen any issues with tick replay. It's just as NinjaTrader says in our documentation, tick replay is very time consuming. Right, going through every single tick of data. Right, you can imagine it's especially when there's over 1 million ticks per day. So it's a lot of data to crunch through. So that should be fine there.
Yeah, why don't you go over the
There.
like if built-in optimization? What I was talking about was with the parameters. So go ahead and choose a file there.
Yeah. All right. Let me load up a file.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure I actually see the question you're referring to. So,
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, like, so those see those parameters down there, okay, those stochastics cross up. Those are the ones that we've decided to optimize on, right? And we got one, two, three, four, five, six, seven of those parameters, right? Now, just think about it. Every time you added there's a range, right? Actually, let's take a look at that range. Okay, so like the first
okay.
one, we're going to five.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, sorry,
Just,
Zach. Yeah. If you don't mind going to the range, we sort of explained this already. So I want to kind of make this point here. Yeah. So you see that? Okay. So this is telling the strategy analyzer or the optimizer what numbers do you want to test for this particular parameter, right? So the stochastics crossing up over 20, right? So what Zach is typing in there right now, and I'm afraid I didn't have real time to go over this, is like, okay, test all the values from 5 to 25, and then do that again with the stochastics going, the threshold going down from 75 to 95, right? And as you can see, right, every time, imagine you were to test, 5 to 25, like incrementing by one. Imagine you're testing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, et cetera, right? That's 20 tests times another 20 tests. What's 20 times 20? 400, right? Or is it 4,000?
um, yeah.
400, right?
Actually, it's five. So you start at five.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why,
So
yeah, that's
it's
exactly, it's
five
20.
squared. So right now
Yeah,
we're at five squared.
yeah,
So
5 squared,
20
25.
minimum 25. Yeah, and then
That's what that increment of, that's what I'm trying to point out is like if you don't need to test every single like increment of one, two, three, four, five, six. You can skip, right? And that'll save you a lot of computational time. So, if you're not interested in the exact value of like 21, should that be 23, 24? Or if you're more in the if you want to look at the macro picture, right? Maybe set that increment to something higher. And instead of 20 times 20 possible combinations to test, you'd be looking, instead of 400, you'd be looking at, 5 squared, which is 25, right? So that's what that increment value is that I wanted to point out there.
yeah. So and this is probably a great idea when you're trying to optimize a moving average. So instead of going through instead of using an increment of one, at least use an increment of two. I mean, if your SMA or your EMA is, one off or two off, is that really going to be critical to your system? No, of course not. That's what I would call the definition of over curve fitting is when you're incrementing, like you're moving averages in increments of one. You at least want to do five, and depending on, how large of a range are you doing? Like if I'm going from 25 to 200, then I'm going to start with 25. I'm going to increment that, in 25 because I want to, you want to find the ballpark of where your moving average should be. Should your average be a low number or should it be a high number? And you don't need to test every single value in between. So an increment of one is overkill and very time consuming, as Jeremy said. Yeah, so be logical and reasonable with your increments, and that will save you a ton of time there. Yeah. So, let's see. So here's
Yeah,
another question.
so quickly, but you got
Go
to
ahead.
remember, guys, every variable you stick in there, you're exponentially increasing
Yeah.
the number of calculations, right? And exponential, sometimes it's really hard to conceive, but that can just grow really fast, right? So, in fact, we would kind of recommend maybe we picked quite a few parameters. To be honest, you might be better off kind of picking three or four, right? Anything kind of, you're looking at five, six, even that's really pushing it. That you're looking at just a lot of computational time, perhaps, right? If you're gonna do five or six different parameters, you're gonna try testing those at least maybe, yeah, as I think Jason's pointing out, just like increase that increment, and that will that will exponentially decrease the amount of time it takes to calculate these things.
Yeah, so I'm actually gonna set up a a good example here, and just get this started.
It's like if you wanted to guess somebody's phone number, brute forcing it is the worst possible way. Try 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0
Yeah,
0 1.
Yeah.
It's like that. You got to take these shortcuts to focus your attention, and then once you find something you like, then start trying other parameters as well. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, Dean's got a really interesting question. Now, and it's very specific. So he's asking if you can optimize on time frames. And I will just say, just from a programmatical standpoint, just kind of the way NinjaTrader is built, it's okay. I'll just say no for now. Unfortunately, it's just because um,
you mean a
they
time period?
time periods. Yes,
Yeah,
time.
to be clear,
Yeah,
because you can actually
yeah.
optimize your time frame here. Yeah, the it's built into the strategy analyzer to.
Right. But I think he means
Oh,
like
yeah,
the
he
time.
means a time period. Yeah, like
Yeah,
time of day.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So as you can see, the strategy analyzer doesn't allow you to put in um, a time value. It only accepts numeric values there.
Well,
So
I think he's thinking like, okay, what I want to try this thing as the 5 minute, 10 minute, 30 minute chart, et cetera, et cetera. And just knowing kind of what I know about the way NinjaTrader works in the background, even if we were to say
yeah,
expose that capability, the way the strategy analyzer works is it sort of preloads the time frames in advance. And so it sticks to it. Like it won't kind of allow us to just willy-nilly start loading all sorts of different time frames. I would say that's an untested part, and that's something we may investigate in the future. But for now, just I'll just say no, just because of the limitations of the NinjaTrader platform.
so uh, come on.
Okay, and while you're doing that,
Looks like, yeah, Ninja's stuck here. Come on.
yeah, if you're like me, I've got the recording of the previous Zoom meeting kind of chewing away, so it's sort of taking up computational cycles on my computer. It's probably doing the same on yours right now. So
Yeah.
um, it's just converting the video. Okay, all right. Let's continue with all right, some questions here. All right, so somebody did put the just purchase the lifetime. I think somebody addressed that already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We answered that already.
How does the optimizer speed compare with NinjaTrader's native optimizer?
This is Ninja's native optimizer. Yeah, there's only one optimizer out there. Yeah, we didn't reinvent the wheel here. So this is NinjaTrader's strategy analyzer optimizer.
The big
Yeah.
difference here, the big challenge was taking a really advanced tool that has a custom UI like Blackbird and Bloodhound and exposing those parameters to the optimizer that already does what it's supposed to do. That's the challenge that we've finally been able to solve that you don't really see elsewhere. So you get to choose the custom parameters that Blackbird has and expose them to the optimizer.
Yeah, so those of you guys have been
Yeah.
users for a while. You understand, that the Bloodhound and Blackbird are extremely complex, right? In terms of, or rather, there's a lot of variables, there's a lot of things that you can, a lot of knobs you can tweak. And so, the strategy analyzer, the challenge for us was like, not just, we want to allow the user, you guys, to tweak any kind of knob that you want inside of Blackbird and Bloodhound, right? So that was. That's exactly why, that's exactly the problem that we did solve. So now we can sort of have the best of both worlds. We have a honed tool from NinjaTrader, the strategy analyzer, and now it plugs and it's fully supported now with our software, and not just Blackbird, but Bloodhound as well. Okay, does that make sense? And oh, VG has got, or is it Vadim? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Yes, Absolutely. A lot of again, we in the presentation we barely we didn't even talk about the trailing rules. Um, but yes, those nodes as well have parameters that you can optimize as well. Yes, absolutely. Those are things like maybe you're trailing by a particular indicator and you want to try different periods, different settings for that indicator. You can absolutely do that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. And
Steven is asking, so does it work with prior versions of Bloodhound? You've had Bloodhound for many years, but you're not on the current version. Steven, I looked you up. I think I found you because you're the only person with your full name in the system. And you only have Bloodhound. So you'll need to get Blackbird. Nice thing is you can sort of double dip. So there's both the discount because it's on sale and because you already own Bloodhound, we'll extend your Bloodhound updates to match your new Blackbird license.
yes, this is a BlackBird upgrade. Yes. If you're basically current with your versions and your maintenance, you get this. You can just simply just download the update, just install it over top of your current install, and yeah, everything should be good to go. It's assuming that you're just current with your maintenance. That's it. All right, thanks, Mark. Can the optimizer results be calculated on a price or tick change, or is only on bar close? Well, bar close is the default method. And this is sort of discussed before. You can absolutely use what's called tick replay, which will attempt to do the tests on every single tick. Just be aware, of course, that's going to dramatically increase the time to compute. And I mean,
Yeah, you should definitely read NinjaTrader's documentation on the tick replay so you know everything that's infected or affected, I should say. Yeah, it's a great capability, but it also comes with great CPU requirements as
yeah,
well.
yeah, that sounds like something out of
Great,
Marvel.
yeah, great capability comes great
Yeah,
CPU
yeah,
requirements.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, what other questions we have here?
For anyone who has only Bloodhound, I went ahead and added the link so you can just get that without reaching out. Jeremy, do you want to share your screen and show, since you're already showing your face there, go to the website,
Oh, yeah, sure. I was actually just in the middle of
go to Buy Now at the top. You can see all the different sale prices and everything. But if you already own Bloodhound under Blackbird, you can get Blackbird and we'll extend your Bloodhound updates for free. Because we need them to match anyway because they share code and so they install together. So we wouldn't want you to have one that was expired and one not. So it's sort of the right thing to do. So just go there and you get Blackbird on the sale price and we won't charge you for updates on your Bloodhound. If you're in that situation, awesome. Let's see.
And while you're on that, did you answer Stefan's question about does Blackbird and the optimizer work with older versions of Bloodhound?
That's pretty much what it was related to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so he had Bloodhound already, but did not have Blackbird as far as I could tell. I looked him up. So, this is where he would want to go to get Blackbird. Because the optimizer is a feature of Blackbird. I know Jeremy was showing Bloodhound features as well, but Blackbird is the controller here because it's the strategy component, which is required for backtesting and optimization. So Bloodhound is a really nice addition to everything, but you need Blackbird in order to do the optimization. So yeah, if you got Bloodhound only, get Blackbird and you're good to go.
Rick says third-party indicators are kind of stingy with sharing their entry and exit signals. That's somewhat true. I'll just say if you have a third-party indicator and it happens to expose the signals in some form, like through a plot or a data series, which is not visible except for programmers, or for yeah, it's kind of visible behind the scenes. You could read into it, and you can actually plug them to Blackbird to do the back testing and that sort of thing. But unfortunately, yeah, if the third-party indicator kind of hides those things and just paints the chart up with it, then there's no way to kind of read that sort of data, at least through Blackbird. Yeah.
But you can always reach out, to that vendor and ask them if they would expose, that information, so that way you can use it, or ask them to expose it, for Bloodhound. And we're always welcome to work with other vendors to help them understand, exposing their indicator data so that, Bloodhound can read it. Nothing magical is needed for Bloodhound to read an indicator. You just got to follow NinjaTrader's, standard practices for creating an indicator. That's all that's needed. But at the same time, we're always welcome to meet with vendors, help them test their indicators, and maybe kind of point them in the right direction as to what might need to be fixed or cleaned up with their indicator so that it works, perfectly with Bloodhound, if there is any issues at all. So, yeah. So, again, just email the vendor and ask them, if they would expose that data, and if they would like to meet with us at Shark Indicators, we're more than welcome to meet with them. So,
Randy earlier asked, will it work with limit or market entry? It'll work with both. I think they were just showing market entries for simplicity, right?
yeah, just to make sure you get a fill for your back test, because limit orders don't always get filled if it's pushed too far away, from the market. So, yeah.
And NinjaTrader does have a slightly unintuitive way of handling that. So if price comes up and touches the level of the limit, sometimes it doesn't fill, I think, just to simulate a situation where it wouldn't fill if it hit the exact price, which is realistic, but it's hard to simulate perfectly, right? I think that's how they ended up going about it. So, but yeah, it works.
Let's see, we have a kind of a repeat question here from Randy. Will it work on price change or only on bar close? So yeah, again, let me. I'm going to steal the screen share here. There we go. Let's take a look here. Yeah. So all of NinjaTrader's backtesting capability is always on bar close, because when you pull up a chart, though all those bars are closed on the chart. So there is no such thing as on price change there when you're back testing. So if you want to do, you can kind of simulate on price change or on each tick by using, where is it? Oh, I got to switch back to Optimizer. And let's see where optimize. There we go. Oh, no, that's right. I don't have tick replay turned on, but if you enable tick replay for your data series, yeah, tick replay will give you that calculate on price change ability there. So, yeah. So, and somebody else was asking about optimizing data series. So here it is. This is that checkbox there, optimize the data series. And now we can see here in the data series section, let me kind of close everything here so we can stay focused. Yeah, so now, let's see, it's probably switch over to a minute chart there, right? So you can optimize from a 1 minute to, I don't know what's reasonable here, 45-minute bars. And we can increment in like maybe 5-minute increments there, something like that. Or probably start with a 5-minute bar. Yeah. So, yeah, and this is all a part of NinjaTrader Strategy Analyzer here, being able to optimize on the data series there.
Okay, you know what?
Again,
I think I said it was not possible, not knowing it was actually possible.
Well, no.
Through the
He was
interface, so.
no. He was asking about the time session solver. Can you optimize the time session solver?
Yeah.
So that's why I said that. Yeah, you can't put a time value in the strategy analyzer, right? Strategy analyzer only allows whole numbers or decimal numbers, right? So you can't put a time-based number in there. So not yet. Yeah, but what you can do is, let's see, I guess, yeah, I need to get
Yeah, and actually, Matt, you did
something
ask.
loaded here.
Yeah, this Matt, this is going to answer his question as well. He's like, how do I get it to launch? So first of all, you open the strategy analyzer, then you got to choose a file first. So you have to have the first step is you do have to have created one. You do need a sort of
Yep,
baseline. So I would,
yep,
do that on the chart first, and then once you've created and saved it, then you can load it up like this.
yep.
Yeah, if you've
So,
gone through the getting started videos, or if you haven't, that's a good place to start because it's going to walk you through the basics of building up Bloodhound signal system, bringing that into Blackbird, learning about the trade automation stuff. And I've actually added Jeremy's 30-minute optimizer like walkthrough to the end of that getting started video series. So and on the documentation for the optimizer. So if you've already got something set up in Bloodhound and Blackbird, then you're ready to start optimizing the parameters.
all right, getting back to the time session solver question here, what you can do is since you can go in and directly edit your Bloodhound system, right? You can just have a couple of time session solvers each, right? Have each one, set up with those custom sessions. And this is manual, but at least it's still a lot faster. And you just connect in, one at a time. So connect that in, run your optimization, do what you got to do there, and then you can disconnect it, connect the next one in, right? Close it up, run your optimization there. Yeah. So being able to open up the Blackbird interface here, and again, don't forget to save and close, but being able to open that up, make those minor little tweaks, yeah, it makes being able to optimize on what should we call it, non-optimizable settings there. It does make it possible, and a lot easier there, being able to open up your Bloodhound system there.
I think I do have it set up here now finally to so if I see if I can if someone can give me permission here to share
I think you can take it, right?
yeah, it says I'm not sure uh I think
Just
Keith, you might have to give me
just take it.
You got it. I
you
had to
got to
make you a co-host. You're good.
yeah, or shut down the other one first. Okay,
You're
cool.
good.
That's just our Zoom doesn't support multiple sharing. All right. Yeah, so I didn't get a chance to actually do this, just given how fast we had to run through it during the NinjaTrader time constraint of 45 minutes. But all right, so the typical kind of way you would start off this again is you would select optimization up here. And then you got to select Blackbird, which I got already. Okay. And then the next thing you do is you choose a file, right? So I would have selected this already. Okay. So I've actually got that loaded. You'll see these two pop up, right? And that's where you can edit again, go ahead and edit and toy around with your Blackbird and Bloodhound files. And then bring up this screen, which is this selection screen of parameters. Okay, so you got the parameters selected, which I kind of did already during the presentation, right? I did explain, we're gonna try to do tweak the PPOs thresholds and stochastic thresholds, and then the ATRs in terms of distance of stop loss and profit targets, and then the SMA, right? So I put those all up there. Then you go one by one, and you got to figure out what kind of range you're going to give each one. So I've already preset these, but in English, what this is saying is, all right, if you want that PPO threshold, remember the chart we had that PPO there, and Zach was like, oh, okay, let's what if we push that down a little bit and make it harder for those signals to come through. Right, so we could try different values, and we're going to try values from -1 to 0 here. And we're telling NinjaTrader, we're telling the strategy analyzer, just try every 10th, right? So zero point 0.1, actually, sorry, -1 to 0.9 to 0.8, et cetera, right? And on the short side, oh, we actually want this guy to look like, what was the numbers again? 0, no, zero point 0.7, you think? 0.7 to 1, is that right, Zach? Would that be reasonable? Yeah, I think that was it.
through
Okay,
the
in fact,
questions.
yeah, I
Um,
can sort of tighten this one up actually a little bit. I'm going to go to 0.5. I just want to keep this one a little tight so we're not, you know, spinning off too much. Hopefully I can try to get an actual full run here. So I've actually kept these ranges pretty tight and the increments pretty large just so I can attempt to try to run a full optimization.
yeah, that looks correct. Yep.
Okay. All right, and I'm gonna keep the SMA period actually the same there. Hit run, and it takes a little while sometimes to spool up there, but you can see even that, like that's 5,800 iterations it's got to chew through. So that's kind of what it'll look like as it's going, and this might take 5, 10, 20. Oh, we got about 10. Oh, okay, that's going pretty quick, 4 minutes or so. Um, so maybe while that's chewing away, we can uh, answer some more questions.
Yeah. Let's see.
Dean was asking if one were to install this new version and hopefully unlikely has problems, can the prior version be reinstalled without problems? The answer is yes. So you just uninstall, like uninstalling any other program, just uninstall and then run the older version. The only downside of that is any Bloodhound or Blackbird files you create or open in the new version will be locked to that new version. But other than that, everything is downgradable in case you want to.
Okay, George. Okay, we got some questions about backtesting in Renko bars. You can absolutely do that. Although, like, the reason why this is so quick, guys, is because I'm running on daily data. That's very small. There's not very much data to chew through. But definitely, once you start getting into intraday data, you're looking at a lot more time commitment. But there you see it.
Yeah.
That's the run just finished there, and now we got
Especially with Renko bars. Renko charts can have tens of thousands of bars per day. So you got to realize back testing on Renko bars is super time consuming. So, but I will put today's Blackbird and Bloodhound files up on our website because I know a lot of existing customers love to play around, with these things that we build in the sales webinar. So it will be available to download from the website there, so you can kind of take them and test them on the Renko bar of your choice.
Oh, actually, well, Alan makes a good point. I thought Renko bars don't give accurate results, and you're absolutely right,
Yes.
Alan. Very sharp. And we do actually have back testable Renkos that we sell as well. That's a kind of a problem we solved many years ago. Um, so we definitely have some sharp ones in here. So you're right, Alan. Don't back test on Renkos and trust those results because
Yeah,
those results are not.
Jeremy, you got your webpage up
Yeah, bring
there
up the website.
to show them
Yeah,
the
yeah, sure,
backtest
sure. Yeah, let's
Renko?
do that. Okay. Okay.
And you'll be able to, uh, go into the products menu, go to bar types,
Thank
Backtest
you.
Renko,
Backtest
and just watch
Renkos.
the video. So if you go there,
Yeah.
watch that video just to get a brief rundown of the problem that we're solving with those. But basically, NinjaTrader's backtest engine sticks the entry at the wrong place because of the way Renkos and a few other bar types like Hike and Ashi just naturally behave. And so we sell a backtest Renko bar that allows you to turn off that fake open price, giving you the appropriate fill level. And that is on sale. So if you end up buying our stuff, you can add it to your cart for, it's basically $100 cheaper than normal. If you want to buy it separately, just reach out and we'll get you the link.
Here's a common technical question here. Can Bloodhound be set up to read chart markers instead of plots? And so Jeremy, you pull up your chart and put a chart marker on there, like an arrow or something, just to give people a
Yeah,
visual.
it might be easier if you're set up to that. Just
Sure.
yeah,
You want
yeah,
me to drive here?
yeah. Let's
All
do
right.
that.
Let me let's see here. We gotta
Share.
oh
Yeah. While you're doing that, I'm gonna take a look
share.
at some more questions here.
All right. So
Oh, okay.
All right. Yeah. So, we know, so this is kind of piggybacking on a previous question slash comment, that some third party indicators don't like sharing their signals, right? They do visually, obviously, they'll put a little arrow on there, right? But they won't share their signal with other indicators, or they won't share it with a strategy, like BlackBird. So most commonly you'll see that they put chart markers up on the chart. Yeah. So the immediate question is, can Bloodhound read these chart markers from an indicator? I think that's really what the question's hinting at. When some other indicator puts a chart marker up, can we get Bloodhound to read that? And the answer is yes, we can. But the problem is, NinjaTrader does not guarantee how soon that marker is readable. So while you might be able to backtest, right, and there are products out there where it can backtest based on the markers, but that product that backtests, if you notice, they never designed it to trade live. And that's because, when you read these, you can only read them in hindsight. You can't, NinjaTrader does not guarantee being able to read them in real time. So from that standpoint, it's useless to really get Bloodhound to read them because you can't trade live with it, right? So, it gets really technical on the order of operations, for NinjaTrader, and this goes for all charting platforms, so this isn't a problem with NinjaTrader. All charting platforms, they have to decide what indicator gets calculated first, and that's always a behind the scenes operation, right? So if Bloodhound calculates first, and then that other indicator calculates last, then that chart marker was put on after Bloodhound already did its calculations. And so you're going to miss that signal in real time. So that's the technical hurdle there. So, we are waiting for, maybe with NinjaTrader 9, they might implement some way to read these markers in real time. And at that point, then then we'll take a look at implementing that into Bloodhound, because then it'll actually be practical at that point.
Speaking of technicals, someone's asking about, or Eric is asking about PC resources, PC minimum specs that you recommend, minimum memory. Is that an issue with optimization?
Yeah, I would definitely say more memory, the better. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially when you got large data series, you're going to start running into memory wall. We spent a fair bit of effort, engineering effort, trying to optimize memory usage, and I still see possible rooms of improvement from our end. But at the end of the day, it is pretty memory intensive. It's pretty CPU intensive, and so all I'm going to just say, is just get the best system you could buy, or alternatively, okay, we haven't really. I will just say we are kind of partnering with a VPS company, and we'll have some announcements later. Either late May or early June regarding that. So if you're not interested necessarily in committing a lot of dollars to a new computer, there's some other options that we're working on as well to get you powerful computers
Yeah.
at more.
That being said, if you don't have a ton of memory, it helps if you don't like. I met with a guy yesterday that had over 100 browser tabs open, and then he wondered why his computer was running kind of slow. So if you're going to run optimization with a slower computer, just close all your browsers. That helps tremendously.
Yeah. Make sure the other programs aren't sucking up all your system memory. So,
So we would generally
Yeah.
we say bare
Yeah.
minimum 16 gigs. 32 is very comfortable. 64 is probably the most that you'd
Yeah,
expect to need.
64
Yeah.
would be pretty comfortable as well, I'd say.
Yeah.
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 So at some point, we'll get this copied over to our documentation here. This was for the beta testers. So we had beta testers playing around with our optimization there for several months. And just to give you an idea, I was basically beta testing on a 12 gigabyte system, and it did fine. Of course, it depends on how complex your system is, how complex you set Blackbird up. How many bars are you, not days, but how many bars are you backtesting against, right? So I would say you can do simple systems with a standard 8 gig system easily.
If you have
You
nothing
know,
else running. That's
yeah,
the thing, that you were testing it on a virtual machine where that was all you were
yep,
doing. Most people sort of live in a
yeah,
world when
yeah.
they got to
Keep
bring
in
up more
mind,
than 3 tabs of YouTube open and all this stuff.
right, this was a work machine, so I didn't have anything running in the background. You're right, so nothing else was sucking up my system RAM. So, but yeah, I would say 12 minimum, 16 gigs is definitely recommended there, because NinjaTrader is not going to use the 16 gigs. NinjaTrader only uses about 8 gigs, but you need 8 gigs for all the other programs, like your browser tabs, as Keith was saying there, right? So you want half the RAM for just Windows and other programs, and then you want 8 gigs for NinjaTrader there when you're optimizing. So yeah.
Can you guys all see my screen as well? I tried to do a multiple share. I think we might actually be able to do this.
I'm just seeing Zach's. I
Yeah,
don't
Yeah.
see one of
no.
Okay.
yours.
Can I steal
Move
a
your
share
You
window
want?
from
around. I'm not sure if this is yours or Zach's.
That's Zach's. You should see an optimizer window on mine.
I see yours. Yeah, only
You
yours.
see mine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe Zach, stop your sharing just in case.
Yeah, let's see. Let's do that.
By the way, Alejandro
Okay.
Here we go.
says, I already
There
have
we go.
Bloodhound and Blackbird, was waiting for this tool, exclamation mark. I already downloaded it. So, and he's waiting for Zach's next workshop where I
Yeah.
assume he's going to get lots of questions.
There'll be a lot of material on this going forward. Absolutely. George, I wanted to answer his question because he asked if you can optimize on the trailing stops rules and that sort of thing. And the answer is yes. And so, as you can see, actually, the system that we were just showcasing did have a trailing rule in there that was optimizing against it was the super trend actually, right? So you can actually dive in there, and all the settings for that particular trailing rule is also up for grabs in terms of all yeah exactly all the settings, including the indicator. So if I want to muck around with the indicators settings here, I can
Yeah, it'd be the multiplier, the base period,
yeah things like
yeah, the
that, right?
range, the range
Yeah.
period. Yeah,
Yeah, and then even the action in terms of, what are you doing with it? Or, what tick offset are you going to have in terms of moving to this particular super trend, right? So yeah, those are all exposable parameters now that you can toy around with and
yeah.
optimize on.
But of course, we need to be good stewards of this new capability. Once you start diving into those details, you can expect the number of iterations to get over 1 million easily. So just keep that in mind, guys. Be mindful of how many iterations, are going to be taken, which isn't a problem, but it's just time consuming. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, well, I'm seeing some questions actually that are sort of, and I love this. You guys are obviously fair bit of you guys are experienced users of our products already. So I see some people saying, "Hey, I got these optimized values. Now how do I pipe them in and make them part of my system?" That's something we haven't implemented yet, mainly because we didn't have this thing out there in the wild and people suggesting things like that yet. So, this is great feedback. I think that's something we'll definitely look at is maybe a button where you can quickly just pop in the values that you've finished optimizing. So your
Wow.
system is now, now
So you
up.
think that number is readable from NinjaTrader?
You'll probably take the form of something, and I guess this is going to come back to our development process in terms of how we're going to present that to the user. But yeah, I mean, there's either we may not be, an automatic thing, but at least a quick way to just, maybe in the screen, just plug those numbers in, right? So something to that effect, right? Just a more convenient way than having to dive through the interface and then pluck
Yeah.
them out and
Yeah.
set them real
That'd be
time.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
For now, just take a screen capture of all those settings. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
just
you
and
just
then
Those
just
things
type
open
pull
it
them
up
up.
into
PS1
Bloodhound.
real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just open it up and have it beside it, right? You can you can see the values there, right? You can easily manipulate it according to what you see on the right hand side. So that's kind of the easy way to do
Yeah.
it. So,
Let's see. George is asking, does it work on hiking Ashi bars? Yeah. So to answer that bigger question, Bloodhound and Blackbird don't care about the bar type. You may not kind of see usable results on certain bar types with certain indicators, but at least technically all the indicators work on all bar types because it's just price data.
So then it kind of comes down to push back a little bit the sort of your definition of works, right? So Zach went to the technical definition of you asked if it works, and technically it does. But correct me if I'm wrong on this, Zach. But it suffers from the same limitation as traditional hybrid Renko bars, in that Heiken Ashi sort of fakes the open price, which does give you inaccurate results. Is that correct?
Yeah, right. If you take that question and extend it forward into back testing, then yeah, back testing on Heiken-Ashis is incorrect. You can't, as far as I know, there's no way to get accurate backtest results using Heiken-Ashi.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of that bar type.
So in
So,
that case, if for something like that, for a situation like that where you're like, my system lives or dies by the Heiken-Ashi, which is not something I hear very often, but if it does, backtesting is probably not as useful of a tool for you. But thankfully, there's still the playback connection where you can play it forward and simulate live data and stuff like that. So optimization is useful for a lot of trade setups, but for Heiken-Ashi, it would not provide accurate results on Heiken-Ashi.
hey,
yeah, that sounds like a logical solution there is, yeah, I'm pretty sure using the playback connection is the only way that you can accurately backtest a Heiken-Ashi, I believe. So maybe somebody like Bob knows, has experience in trying to backtest Heiken-Ashi. I can't. I've never. I mean, I know what a Heiken-Ashi is, but I've never played with it. I personally just don't believe in Heiken-Ashis because, because you're skewing price data. So, personal decision, but
can we go over again just in case? What's the easiest way for someone to get updated?
Yeah, actually, why don't you do this, Jeremy? Go to the homepage.
Mm-hmm.
I added a link that will work for most people. So if you go to the homepage and then click the red button that says Learn More About the Optimizer,
Okay.
and I knew this question would come up. See, it says Already Own Blackbird. Click that.
Okay.
And that'll be sort of a one-stop place for most people because most people own both products. So the left one will download the latest installer if you're up to date or on lifetime. The right one, if you own both, clicking that, go ahead and click that. That'll bring you to the updates for both together. It's $295. That'll get you updates until May 1st, 2026, regardless of how expired you are. If you hadn't even thought about us in the last 10 years and you're just coming back, you just pay it once and you're up to date for the next year from now. And you'll see I've already noticed two people did it already since we started talking here. The upgrade now, there is a link there where the lifetime updates have been on sale for a little while now. So if you're bought in, you're like, man, this is a toolkit I'm going to have in my or tool in my toolkit for years. This is a way to do that for about 3.5 years worth of regular updates. So take advantage if you feel like that's a good deal for you. And then if you go back to Jeremy,
Yeah.
or I guess the other tab, it probably opened.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You're right. Yeah. Thank
And
you.
then
Yeah.
if you have no clue, that third one, just go ahead and contact us. So I have no clue. Just contact us.
Yeah. Yeah. You can always do that too. Yeah. Contact us. So, all right. Alan's asking, is a particular indicator to have an AI component? I guess it's and asking if that's optimizable. I guess that really depends on the indicator. We would have to see it. Um, really, what we can do is optimize on parameters that are exposed by that indicator. Now, I will say, if it has an AI component, it probably has some kind of maybe a server related, it maybe something. I have no idea actually maybe what AI technology it may be using, and believe me, there's a lot of, I would say, misuse, or perhaps AI is let me just put it this way. AI is a really broad term. AI in the sense of what people I think mostly think about these days is the LLM AIs, the large language models, which do require essentially a server communication with a computer in the cloud to run through the tokens and do the response. I'm not sure if that's the case here. I wouldn't know how that would how if that would how that would work necessarily in terms of like, will the indicator be able to produce the results in instant, or at least in time for the optimizer to read its values and that sort of thing, or will it pause? That's something that's an unknown for me. Or if it's just simply pre-programmed model that's built into the indicator itself. In that case, again, it totally depends on what parameters it exposes. So it's parameter dependent. I think it can get a little tricky though if there's some sort of server-based communication. That's kind of a realm, I guess, would have to be tried out. I wouldn't be able to tell you off the top of my head if that would work. So
Yeah, I would I would think so. Yeah, this is since we don't know. Like you said, Jeremy, we don't know exactly what this AI means for the indicator, but if somehow the indicator is communicating with a AI model in real time, then I would think that you couldn't backtest it or optimize it, because backtesting is not real time. It's just crunching numbers like a spreadsheet, and boom, it's done. So the AI, the indicator, would not be able to communicate with the cloud while it's being backtested. Live, it
yeah,
could, because live the data is coming in a lot slower, versus when you're backtesting, there is no spaces, there is no time period, while the bar is building.
yeah, it would totally depend on how the indicator is
Yeah,
built. It's like
yeah,
whether it blocks computation until it gets an answer, et cetera. So there's a lot of kind of
yeah.
unknown.
A lot of unknowns, but
Yeah, yeah,
most likely, probably it wouldn't be back testable.
yeah. Okay,
Um,
Michael Keller's got a great thing suggestion here. He says, yeah, these you know, enhancing what we've got is great, but I guess what he's asking for is some discretionary more enhancements to the discretionary trading tools. And you'll be happy to know, Michael, that is definitely, and I know we've been saying this for a while, but that is absolutely the next focused for the next major update. Um, we do have a fair bit on our plate though, so I would just say, but in terms of, yeah, that's like, now that we've sort of gotten past the optimizer, the next big one is definitely going to be a focus on discretionary trading or discretionary trade tools. And there's also an update as well that we're planning with Bloodhound. Maybe not so major, but some little bit of reorganization with the UI there. But absolutely, discretionary trading is the enhancements are going to be things like risk reward, especially. That's something that customers have been asking for a while. So we'll be focusing a lot on that as a next major update. Yeah. Okay.
oh, we got a lot more questions in the Q&A window just showed up here. Let's see what else we got here. Oh yeah, here's an older one. IG was asking, can you tell us about your experience in optimizing the data series? I don't really have any. I mean, I have just to run it, but but yeah, I don't really have any experience. So yeah, sorry, don't have any tips to lay out on that one, on that question. Um, let's see
Connor
here.
is asking about an AI co-pilot. I would say
Yeah,
like I think last summer we definitely did some investigation in what that would take. We just found, at least at the time, the AI wasn't ready. And then we had some other kind of higher priority things that kind of overrode that for now. I think that's kind of the back burner. And in terms of, we got to make sort of a pretty serious business case internally in terms of, how much investment of time and money versus how much return we might get from that. And so we're still working that out, I would say. But those are things that have been floating around internally. I can't say we have any timeline on that one though, but that's definitely an idea we've been discussing internally. Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be anonymous. Second question. Using AI on asking a model to work with Bloodhound to create an indicator. Similar to, yeah, kind of what we're discussing internally. Yeah. I think the kind of the longer we sort of wait, and the more we do allow LLMs to mature, I think the easier it'll start to get in terms of having an LLM kind of understand our system, how Bloodhound and Blackbird work in particular, and how it can be
yeah,
programmed with plain
yeah. We got
English.
to realize, in order to train an AI model on some specific business, literally takes a team of people to get that. AI isn't just a one button click to train it on your specific data. It does take a team. So, and being somewhat, all NinjaTrader vendors are, pretty small, our number of teams. So our time would be better used kind of waiting for AI to mature, as Jeremy said. So that way the AI models will almost train themselves versus needing a team of people to feed it all the data and get that data cleaned up. Yeah, so we're just kind of waiting for that maturity, and then at some point, we expect, to have some kind of LLM AI model where you can literally talk to it, or maybe type to it first. maybe we'll have to type it out, and describe what you want, and then have the AI take a crack at it, right, and then fine tune it, just kind of like how you do with Chat GPT, right? You ask a question. And then usually, if you're not specific enough, it'll make some assumptions that were wrong, and so you can clarify. Yeah, so that sounds doable, but again, it's a matter of needing the models to be better at training themselves, without needing a huge team of people to do that. So yeah. So
Arun asked about the multi-ordering order sets. So I take Arun probably has some experience with our software. So yeah, you can optimize on multiple order sets. Absolutely. Yeah, just like the single order set that we did, just extrapolate and have more. You can do that. Yeah. How does Ron's asking? Okay, forgive me if this has been covered, but how does the optimization button in DBB differ from strategy analyzer? So I'll just say it works together, right? So um, the the optimizer button in Blackbird opens up this fancy selection window, which allows you to select which parameters you could potentially run optimizations on, right? So you got to do this first. You got to actually, number one, first I would say you got to build your base system, and then number two, you've got to select a handful of parameters that you can run optimizations on, and that's what this is. Now, once you've done this, then it plugs right into the standard strategy analyzer, and you can run all the standard bells and whistles and tools that are built into the NinjaTrader strategy analyzer from there. Does that make sense, Ron? There was another one here.
Hey, Jeremy, once you pull up the documentation page for the optimizer, because there's a video on there that you did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
show
Okay.
people your video. So guys, yeah, so at your convenience, once you go to our website, yeah, there you go. There's a new optimizer page there. Yep. So go to that page and there's a video there that Jeremy created to help, yeah, as a tutorial and an explanation of it. So
And
definitely
Some
need
pretty
to watch
simple.
that.
Yeah.
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 if
Pretty
you're
simple.
absolutely brand new, so this we've got two groups of people here. We've got the long timers who will jump straight to this and they're just dying to play with optimization, and then there's the newcomers who have never used our tools. Where when they start watching Jeremy's video, which is great for what it is, it kind of assumes that you have some kind of base system already built. Is that right, Jeremy?
Yes. Yeah.
So what I
It
would
does.
recommend
Yeah.
if you're brand new, like I said, click free trial at the top and you can go start there. And then it's going to lead you to the videos, which Jeremy, if you want to click on support at the top, support documentation, support documentation, and then getting started videos, the very first link in the middle of the page.
Link at the top.
Oh, thank you. I was looking for it. There we go. Yeah.
So this page also has that video, but it leads in from the others. So it's going to
Okay. Yeah.
building out a simple bloodhound signals, adding onto that the thought process involved. These videos are like 10 minutes each. So it's not insanely in depth. It's to dip your toes in and get a functional system working, and then brings it into BlackBird, starts talking about trade automation, some trailing action rules and stuff like that, which that's my favorite part is the trailing action rules. Exit signals, you are welcome to skip if you're excited to go to optimization. Exit signals is for a specific type of system, and then there's the optimization. So I do tend to recommend kind of going through, a lot of people I talk to, they watch like the first video and a half, and then they like dive in because they're excited, and then they wonder why they don't know what the hell's going on. So, at least watch a few videos, get your feet wet, and then you can start really.
All right. Next question here, Jeremy, if you want to pull up the strategy analyzer. Aaron is asking, can you optimize a portfolio? Right. So that's just a matter of going to the instrument. Yeah, the data series instrument.
Data series instrument.
Yeah.
Basket. Yeah, like this.
Yep.
You can define these are instrument lists. You can just simply define in NinjaTrader.
Yeah.
There's some kind of standard ones that are already included, like already defined. Of course, the Dow, for example. I think the S&P 500 is in there too. Yeah, it is. You can actually run on the entire S&P 500 if you want.
Yeah, hit select all and then wait all day. Yep.
Okay, let's
Then go have some lunch.
Yeah,
Go have lunch and dinner.
I don't have the data for that. I don't have the data preloaded, the historical data, but I might actually have it on the Dow, which Zach did demonstrate, or at least the results of earlier. So let me see. I might have it. If that's the case, I'll run it. This will take quite a while.
Minimize some of your optimizer settings.
Yeah, oops, I actually hit run already, so it's going to spool up.
Oh, okay.
And remember, guys, so when you hit run, don't hammer that button thinking, oh, I need to, when you hit run, the first thing NinjaTrader is going to do is try to load all the data up. And that process itself takes sometimes a minute or two before even the first run starts. So just click it once, just let it go and let it do its thing. Otherwise, you're going to just kind of, what's that word? You're going to...
Yeah, you'll abort it. Yeah, you'll abort it.
Yeah, you abort it. You can have it spinning its wheels. So it's going to be...
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's NinjaTrader behavior, so we didn't have a way of making that a little more elegant, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's much we could do about that. That's just, again, NinjaTrader spooling up, kind of preloading all the data into memory and that sort of thing, So, yeah.
Well, it's just like opening a workspace. NinjaTrader has to spool up all the data before it can open the charts. So that's why opening a workspace takes a little bit of time, takes a few seconds, because NinjaTrader has to preload the bar data, and then it can draw the charts. So same thing with the strategy analyzer. It's got to load up the bar data first, and then it can do the back testing.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So here's the optimization on the Dow 30 basket there, that I ran before the webinar, and you can see each instrument here. Actually, let's open this up a little bit. Oh, there we go. I already have Apple open. Yeah, so you can see you can open up each instrument and then dive inside the top 10 optimizations. Yeah, so it does
Separate ones.
optimize each instrument. Yeah, it runs a full optimization on each instrument, just like if you do on a single instrument, right? You get top 10 results. It's just doing it for all the instruments there. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that that
yep.
seems like a more useful way, more useful than trying to find one that works for everything once. I think the idea there is you pick an instrument, or you're optimizing per instrument, so you would have different settings per instrument,
Yeah.
which were best for that
Well, it
instrument.
definitely makes sense for futures traders because the ES moves quite a bit slower, and I want to say, the risk of using the wrong term, more predictable than the NQ. The NQ is really herky jerky, and sometimes the Dow can be herky jerky. So yeah, so I guess it wouldn't make much sense that if you're running an optimization on a basket, that it just shows you only one result for all of them. Yeah, it does make a lot more sense to be able to, go through. And as we said, as I was pointing out in the sales webinar, to minimize the risk of over curve fitting too much, yeah, you do want to kind of scan through each instrument and see what the results are telling you. So again, we can see here the results is saying that for the stochastics here, 5 is consistently better for buying, right? Wait for that stochastics to go extremely oversold to a value of 5, and every result shows that. So that gives us a clear indication that we should be more conservative on the buy signals, whereas on the sell signals, we have a consistent result there of 55. So it's saying, okay, you know what? We can be a little more liberal when it comes to the stochastics, giving us, a sell signal on the overbought situation. So, yeah, so you definitely want to kind of take each of these results with a grain of salt and kind of aggregate them together and find out what is the common picture that the optimizer is telling you.
Yeah, you want to be careful not to. So this brings up a good point. This is step one, and this is where the fun starts, right? You're not supposed to just run this, turn off your brain, and go, oh, I guess that's the best. Let's just trade it live with a bunch of money. No, the whole point is to help you focus your attention on things that appear to be effective, and then dig into the numbers, dig into the results, and help you learn about why is that effective, what about this as part of my broader system makes this effective, and then continue to iterate from there. So, and from my conversations that I've had with a lot of people during our private sessions, it seems like everybody seems to get it. Like people are like, no, this is going to be a very useful tool to help me more quickly find a workable system, not just blindly trade whatever the computer tells me to trade.
Yeah. What's cool is it might actually uncover some things that you
Yes,
you never really thought about or considered, right? So
exactly.
that's kind of the neat thing about these.
I like Michael's analogy. The NQ is a bull. Yeah, watch out for the horns. And the ES is a trail horse. Yeah, that's a great analogy. That's right. I'd much rather ride a trail horse for sure than a bull.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if it means like bull market, well, I don't know lately what it looks like. I haven't looked at it in a little while, but
Yeah, the NQ is like a mechanical bull.
yeah,
It'll
okay,
throw
yeah,
you.
very volatile. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, the tech stocks at the first crash, and then you sort of downturn, and the first to like skyrocket back up. Yeah, it's one of those things. All right, Daryl was asking
Well,
you to post these uh, Blackbird and Bloodhound files, and of course we always do that after every.
yeah. Let's see
And
here.
Zach, where are you going to post those?
Yeah.
So go to support and then template files, right there, template files. So yeah, this is where you can download the Bloodhound and Blackbird template files from the workshops and other places. And then we also have this sales webinar section here. Yeah, so yeah, that mean reversion, that classic stock signal and mean reversion signals that I built in Bloodhound for today's sales webinar will end up in this section here. So, yep, go here and then click, and then remember to sort by date. Click on date, and the newest ones will be on the top. So you can see there's ones from April, ones that we did a couple of weeks ago, a bunch there. Yeah, there's ones from Big Mike's or Nexus Buy done in back in March. So, yeah, they all show up here. So.
Tyrone says, out of all the products available, yours is the only one I felt was of true value, and you're the only vendor I spent money with outside of purchasing the NinjaTrader platform. Awesome. Thank you so much, Tyrone. With this addition, I feel complete and do not believe I need anything else. Wow, okay. All right, Jeremy, that's it. We're done.
Thanks, Tyrone. Oh, that's a great vote of confidence.
Man, I'm breaking my...
like you that really keep going, like I really appreciate that. You can't thank you enough. Like, this... We definitely work hard on trying to improve our products, and it's always nice to know it's appreciated and being used. So
hey Tyrone,
thanks.
would you mind if I put that on our testimonials page? That'd be okay. I try to get permission before I just dump it on there, but if that's all right, just let me know.
And if you want to mail a tip in. Right. I should have mentioned this earlier, but if there's any new people still here in the room, just to remind you, right, that we do have weekly training workshops. This is Zach. Yeah, this is Zach. I'm the one that hosts these workshops. So normally on Thursdays, there's a Bloodhound workshop. Of course, if there's a sales webinar like there was today, there's no workshops on sales webinar Thursdays. But tomorrow there will be a Blackbird workshop here. So I would imagine if you got more questions on the optimizer, you better email them in first, because I'm guaranteed I'm going to get hammered tomorrow in the workshop with optimizer questions. And there's a good chance some of you may not be able to hang in there long enough to get your questions answered. So get your questions in first. And you can always email questions into our support, right? So if you got questions, for tomorrow's workshop, you can email them in, or if you go to support, contact us there, you can email your questions in this way as well. Or you can just go to support. Technical questions on setting up Blackbird in preparation, for the optimizer. Tomorrow's workshop is the day to do that. So, and right there's the registration link there. So they were just recently kind of separated out, so they're not hidden anymore. So they were kind of hidden in plain sight there. So if you haven't signed up, this is just a Zoom sign up link there. That way you get an email 1 hour before the workshop, an email reminder there an hour before.
Okay, we this is one of the longest, I think, Q&As we've had in a while. So thank you, everyone. That it does sort of tell us we're on the right track here and developing tools that you guys are enjoying using. So again, thank you for staying for the webinar, and I think it's a good time to sign off now.
Cheers.
Yeah, I think we're all hungry.
Yeah. Time to get some lunch.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
See you next time.